The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Chapter 5 Influences. Continue. Step 2. Enroll in Drive Time U. It's not enough to eliminate negative input. To move in a positive direction, you must flush out the bad and fill up on the good. My car won't move without two things: gasoline and an ever present library of instructional CDs I listen to as I drive. The average American drives about 12,000 miles a year. That's 300 hours of flushing potential right there. Brian Tracy taught me the concept of turning my car into a mobile classroom. He explained to me that by listening to instructional CDs as I drive, I gain knowledge equivalent to 2 semesters of an advanced college degree every year. Think about it. Using the time you're currently wasting by listening to drive time radio, you could obtain the equivalent of PhD in leadership, sales success, wealth building, relationship excellence, or whatever course you choose. This commitment, in combination with your reading routine, separates you from the herd of average one CD, DVD, or book a time. Associations. Who is influencing you? Birds of a feather flock together. The people with whom you habitually associate are called your reference group. According to research by social psychologist Dr. David McClelland of Harvard, your reference group determines as much as 95% of your success or failure in life. Who do you spend the most time with? Who are the people you most admire? Are those two groups of people exactly the same? If not, why not? Jim Rohn taught that we become the combined average of the 5 people we hang around the most. Rohn would say we could tell the quality of our health, attitude, and income by looking at the people around us. The people with whom we spend our time determine what conversations dominate our attention and to which attitudes and opinions we are regularly exposed to. Eventually, we start to eat what they eat, talk like they talk, read what they read, think like they think, watch what they watch, treat other people how they treat them, even dress like they dress. The funny thing is, more often than not, we are completely unaware of the similarities between us and our circle of 5. How are we not aware? Because your associations don't shove you in a direction, they nudge you ever so slightly over time. Their influence is so subtle that it's like being on an inner tube out in the ocean, feeling like you're floating in place until you look up and realize the gentle current has pushed you half a mile down the shore. Think of your friends who order greasy appetizers or a cocktail before dinner, and that's their routine. Hang out with them enough, and you'll find yourself grabbing for another cheese nachos and potato skins and joining them for that extra beer or glass of wine, watching their matching their pace. Meanwhile, your o- meanwhile, your other friends order healthy food, and talk about the inspiring books they're reading and their ambitions in their businesses, and you begin to assimilate their behaviors and habits. You read and talk about what they talk about. You see the movies they're excited about, and you go to the places they recommend. The influence your friends have on you is subtle and can be positive and negative. Either way, the impact is incredibly powerful. Watch out. You cannot hang out with negative people and expect to live a positive life. So, what is the combined average income, health, or attitude of the five people you spend most time with? Does the answer frighten you? If so, the best way to increase your potential for whatever traits you desire is to spend the majority of your time with people who already possess those traits. You will then see the power of influence work for you rather than against you. The behaviors and attitudes which help them acquire the behaviors and attitudes which help them sorry the behaviors and attitudes which help them acquire the success you admire will begin to become a part of your daily routine. Hang around them long enough and you are likely to realize similar successful outcomes in your life. If you haven't already, jot down the name of those five people you hang around the most. Also, write down their main characteristics, both positive and negative. It doesn't matter who they are, it could be your spouse, your brother, your neighbor, or your assistant. Now, average them out. What's their health and bank balance? What's their average relationship like? As you look at your results, you ask yourself, is this list okay for me? Is this where I want to go? It's time to reappraise and reprioritize the people you spend time with. These relationships can nurture you, starve you, or keep you stuck. Now that you've started to carefully consider with whom you spend your time, let's go a little deeper. As Jim Rohn taught me, it's powerful to evaluate and shift your associations into three categories: disassociations, limited associations, and expanded associations. Disassociations. You guard against the influences your children are exposed to and the people they hang around with. You are aware of the influence these people could have on your children and the choices they make as a result. I believe the same principle should apply to you too. You already know this. There are some people you might need to break away from completely. This might not be an easy step to take, but it is essential. You have to make a hard choice not to let certain negative influences affect you anymore. Determine the quality of life you want to have and then surround yourself with the people who represent and support that vision. I'm constantly weeding out of my life people who refuse to grow and live positively. Growing and changing your associations is a lifelong process. Some people might say, I'm too rigorous about it, but I'd like to be more so. I had a business relationship with someone I really liked, but when the economy got difficult, most of his conversation was focused on how horrible things were, how much his company was feeling the hit, and how hard it was out there. I said, man, you've got to stop working on your presentation about how bad life is. I can hear you collecting all the data to reinforce your belief. He persisted in seeing everything as more dour and hopeless than it was. And I decided we had no business doing business together. When you make the tough decision to put up boundaries between you and people who drag you down, realize that they'll fight you especially those closest to you. Your decision to live a more positive, goal oriented life will be a mirror to their own poor choices. You will make them uncomfortable and they will attempt to pull you back into their level. Their resistance doesn't mean they don't love you or want the best for you. It's actually not about you at all. It's about their fear and guilt about their own poor choices and lack of discipline. Just know that breaking away won't be easy. Limited associations. There are some people you can spend 3 hours with, but not 3 days. Others you can spend 3 minutes with, but not 3 hours. Always remember that the influence of associations is both powerful and subtle. The person you're walking with can determine whether you slow your pace or quicken it literally and figuratively. Similarly, you can't help but be touched by the dominant attitudes, actions, and behaviors of the people with whom you spend time. Decide how much you can afford to be influenced based on how those people represent themselves. This is difficult, I know. I have had to do this on several occasions, even with close family members. I will not, however, allow someone else's actions or attitudes to have a dampening influence on me. I've got a neighbor who's a 3 minute friend. For 3 minutes, I have a great chit chat, but we wouldn't mesh for 3 hours. I can hang out with an old high school friend for 3 hours, but not 3 days. And then there are some people I hang around for a few days, but wouldn't go to an extended vacation with. Take a look at your relationships and make sure you're not spending 3 hours with a 3 minute person. Expanded associations. We've just talked about weeding out negative influencers. While you are doing that, you'll also want to reach out. Identify people who have positive qualities in the areas of life where you want to improve, people with financial and business success you desire, the parenting skills you want, the relationship you yearn for, the lifestyle you love, and then spend more time with them. Join organizations and businesses and health clubs where these people gather and make friends. Ahead, you will see how I even used to drive to a different town to spend quality time with fortuitous results. I rave about Jim Rohn throughout this book because, aside from my father, Jim remains my foremost mentor and influencer. My relationship with Jim perfectly exemplifies an expanded association. While I got to share a few private meals and spend a little time with him during our interviews and backstage before events, most of my time with Jim was spent listening to him in my car or reading his words in my living room. I have spent more than 1,000 hours, getting direct instruction from Jim, and 99% of that was through books and audio programs. What's exciting about this is no matter where you are in your life, maybe busy at home with small children or caretaking aging parents, working long hours with people with whom you have little in common, or living in a country far from the nearest office building, you too can have almost any mentor you want if he or she has gathered their best thoughts, stories, and ideas into books, CDs, DVDs, and podcasts. You have an unlimited bounty from which to draw. Take advantage of it. If you want to have a better, deeper, more meaningful relationship, ask yourself, who has that type of relationship I want? How can I spend more time with that person? Who can I meet who can positively influence me? Let their glow rub off on you. Befriend the person you think is the biggest, baddest, most successful person in your field. What do they read? Where do they go for lunch? How can that association influence you? You can build these expanded associations by joining networking groups, Toastmasters, and similar organizations. Find the clarity organizations, symphonies, country clubs where the people you want to emulate gather. Find a peak performance partner. Another way to increase your exposure to expanded associations is by teaming up with peak performance partner, someone as equally committed to study and personal growth as you. This person should be someone you trust, someone bold enough to tell you what they really think about you, your attitudes, and performance. It could be that this person is a long-time friend, but he or she may be someone who doesn't know you well at all. The point is to get and give an unbiased, honest, outside perspective. My current accountability partner is my good friend, London, Landon Taylor. As I mentioned before, we have a 30-minute call every Friday to discuss our weekly wins, losses, fixes, and ahas, and where we are on our growth plans. The anticipation of the call, knowing I have to be accountable to Landon, keeps me extra committed throughout the week. I make a record of Landon's losses or any feedback he needs and make sure to ask him about it next week. He does the same for me. That way we hold each other accountable. He might say, okay, you screwed up here last week and admitted it and committed to change. What did you do about it this week? Life is life. We are both busy executives. But it's amazing to me that we actually end up doing this every week without fail. It's not easy. Sometimes I'll be flying through my day and thinking, oh crud, I have to do this. But often in the middle of the call, I think, I'm so glad we are having this conversation. Even in preparing for it and thinking of my big wins and losses for the week, I learn about myself. This week, I told Landon, I'm in the middle of so many things. I'm writing my book. I'm having a lot of realizations and so many ahas, but not one thing that's really compelling. He said, let this be the last week that you don't come to the table with the aha. Don't shortchange me, he said. Point taken. In reality, I was shortchanging myself by not identifying one thing memorable enough to share. I have a serious challenge for you if you're up for it. Want real feedback? Find people who care enough about you to be brutally honest with you. Ask them these questions. How do I show up to you? What do you think my strengths are? In what areas do you think I can improve? What do you think I sabotage myself? Where do you think I sabotage myself? What's one thing I can stop doing that would benefit me the most? What's the one thing I should start doing? Thank you for listening to The Compound Effect. I will continue to read tomorrow.